Yo, what's up guys, it's Bird here from Addict Gaming, and today we are going to talk about ARCHEAGE. Now if you don't know what ARCHEAGE is a free-to-play sandbox MMO that is developed by TRION Worlds and developed by XL Games. Now ARCHEAGE is actually already out in Korea, but it's being further developed to be more accessible to a Western audience. And the game is launching September 16th, which is in about a week. So this video is here to inform you of what you can expect if you do play ARCHEAGE. Now ARCHEAGE has a payment model that is very similar to Rift, because both games are published by TRION Worlds, so there is a patron system where you can pay for the game like a subscription and get full access to the game, and the free-to-play model does have a few restrictions, and we'll talk about those as we go out through the video. Make sure you stick around for the whole video, and I will give you my final thoughts and opinions and if I would recommend the game at the end. And if you have any comments or questions, make sure you leave them below and I will answer them to the best of my ability. Okay, let's take a quick look at the character creator. Now the character creator will be the first thing you see when you enter the game. And I will say right off the bat that ARCHEAGE does have a very good character creator, and sometimes I'm very disappointed when I start an MMO and their character creator just isn't that good. But ARCHEAGE, you really have a ton of control over the way your character looks, and you have quite a few options as well. So there are 4 races in the game right now with 2 factions. There are supposedly 2 more races going to be launched after the game actually launches. So the first faction, you have Nuyen, here's your male and your female. You have elves, there's your female and your male. And then on the other faction you have Firan, like cat-like people, there's your male and your female. And Harani, there's your female and your male. Now every single race has racial abilities. Some are a little more useful than others. For example, Harani has jungle tamers where they can cut down trees and gather herbs faster. And Firan can climb trees and climb ladders faster because they have claws. Then you have like the elves where, you know, they can swim 5% faster. Yay! You know, nothing that great. Some of the racials are good, some are whatever. But it's nothing game breaking, it's just tiny little bonuses that you get. Alright, so let's jump into the character creator here and I'll show you some of the options they have. Now, you do have pre-made faces. I really don't know why somebody would use it because you just have so many options. So you have your eyes, you pick your eyes, your nose, your mouth, and your head. And then the greatest thing is you go to your details. So we're on head, I'll go to my head details, and you have tons of sliders. I can control almost any part of the face and make a huge difference. So I'll grab the jaw width and you can see I can make it really tiny, or I can give my my girl Harani a huge jaw if I wanted to. So there's tons of customization, you know, with your mouth. You can go to details and you can change everything. You can change where the lips are, your mouth width. So huge changes. They don't try to root you into reality too much. Then on the left side we have some stylized appearance options. You have all of your hair options, and a lot of the options are really good. There's a ton of different options, and most of them are pretty awesome. It's not having a ton of options and there's only like 1 or 2 good ones. Most of them look pretty good. So tons of options when it comes to stylizing your character. Then there are over 60 hair colors. You can go purple, you can go blue, you know, pink, whatever you want to go. Then your eyes, you can change your eyebrows, you can change your eye colors. If you want green eyebrows, pink hair, then that's definitely something you can do. Style, here's like your makeup and your blush. Then you can do skin, you can do aging, you can do age lines. You have a slider here for age line intensity, so you can make it deep or small. Then you have your skin color. And then you have your paint, which I don't know if some people like face paint. I don't like it so much. And then you have your scar imperfections. This one's pretty cool because you can actually change the location of the scar, and you can change the size of it. So I can make it really small, and then I can put it like right here. Or I can even change the angle of it. Let me do it this way. And then I can actually put it on the other side if I wanted it on the other side instead. So tons of options in the character creation. If you're a person who really likes being able to customize your character, you know, exactly the way you want and get the facial structure exactly how you want it, then ARCHEAGE will definitely give you that. Okay, so once you hit accept and create your character, you are brought to your skill set screen. Now this is one of my favorite features of the game. ARCHEAGE has a very good multi-classing system. So what happens is you pick one of these skill sets up top, and there are actually 4 more skill sets in the game. And as you level, you are able to pick 2 more skill sets. So you will have a total of 3 skill sets, and you get to pick skills from those and mix and match them and create your own kind of personal combat fighting style. And you can always drop one of your classes for another class for a fee. And one of the great things is that the skill sets actually level independently from one another. So if you drop one of your classes for a class you never played before, you're going to have to level that class up before you get access to those skills. So I love the multi-classing system in this game. I think that it brings a ton to this game. It brings a lot of horizontal progression as well, so you have a lot to work towards. But unfortunately, as great as the multi-classing system in this game is, I don't think the combat is very good in this game. Now, just quickly before we cover the combat system in this game, I wanted to touch on the graphics. The graphics are okay in this game. I guess for a typical MMO, the graphics are actually pretty good. The textures in the game are a bit lackluster. There are some good textures, there are some pretty bad ones. But what the game does really well is it sets up a lot of scenic views while you're playing. And as long as they're far away and you don't see those textures, they actually look very beautiful. But once you get close up, it kind of loses its wow factor a little bit. Another great thing about this game, especially being a content creator, is they have this thing, they have like a camera mode where you can actually disconnect the camera from your character. You can zoom up into the sky, you can zoom into certain places so you can zoom the camera, and you're able to get the perfect angle for a certain shot that you're trying to make. So if you're a content creator, you have a lot of tools in your hands to be able to make, machinima or whatever you want to make with that tool. Added Gaming did make the Ellen Keel Kills Kittens video for the election in Guild Wars 2. And you have no idea how difficult that was to shoot because Guild Wars 2 doesn't have a first-person view, and you're just constantly trying to make sure that your character's not in the camera, and there are certain little tricks you have to do. It's so annoying. But the camera mode in ARCHEAGE is a very, very good thing. Okay, so before I rip the combat system in ARCHEAGE a new one, I do want to talk about one of the positives in this game, and that has to do with the skill combinations. Now, a lot of skills have certain conditions that they put on, like a slow or a snare or a bleed, things like that. And then most of the skills also have combos on, if you read the tooltips. And what it does is if you attack a target that has a certain condition on it, you will trigger a combination. So there's a lot of combinations between the skills. So for example, I picked, this is my low-level archer. So I picked archery, and then my second class I picked battle rage. I'm trying to make like a, I stand back and do a lot of damage with my bow, and then as soon as the enemy starts coming closer, I could pull out my Nodachi or my greatsword and then whoop their butt in melee range. So my number 1 applies a slow, and then my number 2 ability has a combination. If it hits a slow target, it actually increases the amount of time that that target is actually slowed. And then my number 3 ability actually it applies a snare, and it does more damage to a target that's slowed. So it's going to do more damage because the target's slowed already from my bow. And then my number 4 ability actually knocks over anybody that's snared. So you can see all the inner workings of the skills and how they you'll see all the combos popping up because I'm kind of rotating my skills in a way to trigger as many combinations as I can. And you're going to get a lot more damage out of it. It's kind of cool. Like I could use my number 3, which will charge, and then it will snare the target. Then my number 4 will knock him down right away, giving me more time to do more damage. So that's one thing I really love about the combat system, is how they did a really good job of making the skills really work well together. Well, it's on to the combat system, and I have some bad news for people who enjoy good combat systems. You are definitely not going to find it in ARCHEAGE. And the problem is, the combat in ARCHEAGE is so prevalent. It's tied into so many aspects of the game. You can think of things like trading, where you're trying to trade goods from one continent to another, or you're trying to get as far as you can, because the farther you go, the more gold you make. You know, people are going to try to kill you and steal your trade goods, so there's combat there. There's combat in castle sieges, where guilds can build castles and own land, and other guilds can attack those castles and try to destroy them. There's tons of combat there. In the naval battles, you can jump on other people's ships and you can fight there. You know, you're questing and you're leveling, it's all combat. And it's really a shame, because if this game had a good combat system, then it would improve so much of the game, because so much of the game has combat inside of it. And actually, one of the things that I do like is that it actually has collision detection, and it would have made Castle Sieges really interesting only if the combat system was a little bit better. Now, the only saving grace to the combat system could be the class and the skill system, and as you're leveling up, I knew that the combat was not good at all, but honestly, I didn't care so much because I was so interested in unlocking new skills and learning how to combine those skills in very interesting ways, and that was really fun to me. So I kind of blew off thinking about how bad the combat actually was. But once the shininess of that system, the newness, once that wears off, then all you are left with is the combat system. And then you start thinking, man, this combat system really, really sucks. It's just boring. And the only exciting part about it was leveling your classes and learning your new skills. So in 2014, when games like Guild Wars 2 and Terra, and games even like WildStar are trying to innovate on the combat system because they know that the MMO fanbase wants a better combat system. And currently there's one huge problem with the combat system because there is no skill queuing in ARCHEAGE, which means if you have high latency, you can forget about trying to do as much damage as other people. And on that note, we have to talk about the questing system. Now, the difference between the combat system and the questing system is that the combat system is a little unforgivable. You know what I mean? With the questing system, you can make a few excuses, just like World of Warcraft, you can make excuses for a bad questing system, bad leveling experience. The questing isn't the game. The game is the end game where you're raiding and doing heroic dungeons and stuff. And the same thing you can say here, where while questing isn't the focal point of the game is, crafting and trading and open world PvP, naval battles, things like that. So I understand if people are going to make excuses for it, but at the same time, you do spend a very large chunk of your time actually going through the quest system, the leveling experience. And they showed absolutely no interest in actually innovating on it. Actually, I think they made the traditional quest system even worse because the quests have such a fast-paced feel to them where you never feel like you even know what you're doing. Because when you accept a quest, you have a mini-map that shows you where to go. You have arrows around your character saying, okay, head this way. So you're not even interested in what you're doing. You're just, it's kind of what the traditional quest system boils down to lately. That in games that actually do this is you're just following arrows and doing something. You don't know actually what you're doing, but you're doing it and you're getting experience. You walk 5-6 feet and talk to a guy, you get the same reward for doing that as you do when you actually go out killing stuff and actually achieving things. So the reward system's a little weird, and they have a system where you can overachieve or underachieve on certain quests. So say a guy tells you to go out and kill 5 skeletons, you go out and kill 10 skeletons, you turn it back in, you get a bit of bonus XP. Or you could kill 1 skeleton and turn it into him and underachieve and not get it as much XP. So it kind of has like an Asian feel to it. That's a very Asian kind of thing in MMOs. Anyway, if you're looking for a good questing system, you're looking for a good story, you're not going to get it here. I do understand that a lot of games come out with questing systems like this because that's not the focal point of the game. But I still think it's very disappointing that a company wouldn't put any twist or any sort of original idea onto the questing system, just rehashing the old traditional quest system. Now let's talk about some things that this game actually has to offer and some of the unique things I actually liked about it. And the first one would have to be the vast amount of vehicles. You have mounts, which are a lot more than mounts in this game. They're more like pets because there is mounted combat and your pet has its own level separate from yours, so you actually level it and unlock more mounted abilities as your pet levels on. And you can add armor to your pet, changing its look and making it look a little more badass, and improving its stats, like improving its health or improving its movement speed, evasion, things like that. So that's pretty cool. You can customize your mount a little bit, and it adds a little more horizontal progression to the game just through your mount. You also have things like a glider, which is lets you glide through the air. So if you're up on a cliff, instead of running down on your mount, you could just glide down and get a really nice view around you, and it's just fun. That's all it is. And then one of the biggest ones are the ships in the game. There are quite a few different types of ships, and everyone has its own purpose. So you have you first get a rowboat for free through your leveling experience, and that'll get you across the water, but it's really slow, and it really has no purpose other than just to get you on the water. But you could get like a speedboat, which its purpose is just to go fast, and it can carry like 2 cargo. It has space for 2 cargo, so if you want to do quick trade runs, then you could do that on a speedboat. But remember, the amount of cargo room on the speedboat is pretty small, so you would have to try to do it quickly. Now, there are merchant ships where it's like, I think it's either 20 or 40 spaces for cargo. So if you wanted to make a huge trade run, you could do that with the merchant ship. But the problem with the merchant ship is that it doesn't have much firepower. So if you run into enemy ships while you are crossing the ocean, then you're going to be in trouble because you won't be able to defend yourself. And then you have the boats like the galleons, which are like the warships. They have tons of cannons, and they're the ones that are going to be able to protect these merchant ships. So it's all about teaming up and using these vehicles in really unique ways. I just love how the vehicles in this game provide you an experience where you can actually build something and bring it into the world and say, hey, this is what I built, and you can make actual use of it in the living world. Now, you guys have heard me talk about the trading system in this game quite a bit already, and it's actually one of my favorite parts of this game because it really opens up the game in a lot more areas. Though the way everything works with it is so cool. Basically what the trading system is you make specialty items in certain areas, and after you make that, you get a trade pack, and you can travel with that trade pack to a certain vendor. There are certain vendors throughout the world, and the farther you go with this trade pack, the more money, the more reward you will receive. So if you want to go, you could go, it's a risk versus reward system, really. You can go very close and you just get a tiny bit of gold, or you could go really far and get a huge payoff. And when you go farther, there's a lot more at risk because you're going through, you're potentially going through zones that are at war and zones that are being contested, and just zones where there's a lot of PvP going on. So this is going to encourage a lot of team play, where you want your friends to come and help you, and then you can split the reward. You can even hire other players if you know they're good PvPers, and they can come and help you out. But the problem is, you could hire these random mercenaries, and by the time you get to the vendor, they could just turn around and kill you, because you can kill your own faction in this game if you choose to. And then you have to think about, how are you actually going to get this cargo from point A to point B? Are you going to go by land and take a car, or take like a donkey? Are you going to take a ship because you want to bring a lot of cargo, so you want to bring a merchant ship or something and run the risk in running into enemy boats that are going to kill you, or even running into pirates, people from your own faction who have set in their mind that that's what they want to do in the game. They want to kill their own faction and kill enemy boats and steal trade goods and turn those in for gold. These are all options that you have in ARCHEAGE, and this is kind of where the sandbox feel comes into play, because you can choose what you want to do. Do you want to be a trader and be a good guy and help other people out getting their trade goods turned in? You can turn into the pirate and kill everyone you see trying to steal their trade goods. There's a lot of options, and the whole trading system really brings a purpose to the open world PvP. And we see in so many MMOs that open world PvP, where the open world PvP has died, like World of Warcraft, is because there's no purpose, and then they try to interject purpose into the game, and it just never works. But with the trading system, where there's tons of value and tons of money on the line, that adds a huge purpose for players to want to go out and open world PvP for these resources. Let's touch on some of the few other features of the game that we can wrap this video up. And the first one would have to be the crafting system. Now, this game doesn't have your typical end game of other MMOs like World of Warcraft. One of the biggest focuses of this game at end game is going to be on the crafting. That's where you are going to get your best gear, and basically what it is, when you're trying to get your best gear, there's a lot of RNG, because you make the best piece of gear, but you're not able to choose the stats. The stats come out randomly, so it might take you quite a few tries just to get that same piece of gear. And the crafting and gathering systems in this game is actually governed by what's called a labor point system, and I think you can have a maximum of 2,000 labor points. And basically what happens, whenever you harvest something, you're going to be using labor points, and whenever you craft something, you'll be using labor points as well. It's kind of, at first I thought it was extremely restricting, but actually the more I think about it, I think it's kind of a cool little system to make you think tactically about crafting, which doesn't happen in most games. So when you go out to gather something, you're going to have to think exactly what you need to make exactly what you want to make without wasting too many labor points on things you just don't need. Whereas in other MMOs, you just go out and harvest every single thing you see, so you really are going to have to think through what you're doing with the crafting system. Now, as far as the labor point system goes, there is a restriction on free-to-play players, and that has to do with the amount of labor points you get. So right now, if you are a subscriber to ARCHEAGE, you get 10 labor points every 5 minutes you are online, and you get 5 labor points for every 5 minutes you are offline. So even while you are offline, you're still gaining a lot of labor points. Whereas free-to-play players, they get 5 labor points every 5 minutes while they're online, so that's 5 less than subscribers. And they actually receive 0 labor points while they are offline. So there is a restriction to free-to-play players. You're not going to be able to progress your crafting as fast as subscribers. And it's actually a big deal because there's 20 disciplines in the crafting system, and each discipline it's broken down from basic to master, and it goes basic stops at 10,000 and then master goes all the way up to 50,000. So there is a ton of progression in the crafting system, and it's going to take a little longer for free-to-play players to progress. Now, I wouldn't have minded this system so much. I think slowing down progression for free-to-play players is the way to go. But they also put in labor pots that you could buy with real money, giving the game a pay-to-win kind of feel. I'm not sure why they decided to do that. I really hope they go back on that decision and get rid of those. In a sense, it is pay-to-win. You will be able to do more than other people are doing, even if you are a free-to-play player. Now, the last thing that I want to talk about is the housing and the farming aspect of the game. The farming aspect actually brings a lot to the game because you can grow your own materials used in crafting, and you could use it in the trading aspect of the game as well. So you're not always having to harvest. You can actually grow these things on your own. And houses, players can own houses in certain areas in the world. And guilds also can own castles on the North Continent. And then once you own a castle, as a guild, people are allowed to build houses around your castle, and you actually get to control who builds those houses. And then you have castle sieges where other guilds can come and try to take over your castle and destroy it, and then they take ownership of that land. And the guild that owns the castle where the houses are built around actually collects taxes from the players who built houses there, making the castle sieges and owning a castle as a guild meaningful. Now, as far as housing goes, there is a restriction to free-to-play players. Free-to-play players can't own land, and they can't own a house, so you're going to have to go and use public farms to grow all of your materials that you need. Now, I guess it doesn't really affect gameplay much. You might have to do a little more traveling for growing your crops and stuff, going to different public farms, because certain farms have certain limitations to what you can grow. Some will let you grow livestock, some will let you grow vegetables, and you'd have to go back and forth between those. But as far as gameplay goes and its effect on a person who's playing free-to-play to experience the game, it doesn't really have an effect, just unfortunately you won't be able to experience that part of ARCHEAGE. Okay, so my final thoughts of ARCHEAGE. You know, ARCHEAGE is a game where I could see myself putting in like 2 or 3 hours a week. I'm just doing some trade routes, doing some farming and crafting, and being able to experience aspects of MMOs that most other MMOs kind of push to the side and forget about. So if you are focused on your main MMO and you want to break and just, you just want to craft some stuff and you want to go do the trade routes and go out to sea and do some naval battles, then ARCHEAGE, especially since it's free to play, you can spend a couple hours a week in that game and have a lot of fun. So I think ARCHEAGE is actually a decent MMO. It certainly fails in some major aspects, especially the combat, and hopefully they revisit that in the future and do some changes to it. But ARCHEAGE definitely has a lot to offer its players with a lot of features, and I really think it's going to find its niche and have some success. How long that success will go, I'm not sure, but I really do think that they'll find a niche fan base in this crowded MMO market. So give it a try, it's free, it's coming out September 16th, that's the official launch date, and let me know how you guys enjoyed the game in the comments below. Make sure you guys leave a comment, and if you have any questions, put them below and I will answer them to the best of my ability. Like this video and subscribe for more MMO content. See you later, guys. Traits are changing as well, the way the traits work. So if we talk about some positives of this build, now this build has very heavy condition damage, but it also has very good condition variation. It has, I think, we can apply every single condition in the game on this build except for